Good evening and welcome to this regularly scheduled meeting of the Ventura Unified Board of Education. I'm calling this meeting to order at 5 o'clock. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
Yes, we do. We'd like to remove item 16A for a future meeting.
Great, thank you. With that change, do I have any motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Okay, Trustee Peterson is absent. Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
I see no public comment on closed session items, so I will entertain a motion to go into closed session where we will discuss public employee discipline dismissal release. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. This board is adjourned. Good evening, and thank you for joining us for this regularly scheduled meeting of the Ventura Unified School District. My name is Sabrina Rodriguez, and I'm currently serving as board president. If you would please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, and after the Pledge of Allegiance, if you would remain standing for a moment of silence. At this time, we'd like to remain standing for a moment of silence to honor Desmond Webster, a former assistant principal at Ventura High School who passed away last week unexpectedly. I will read a little bit about Desmond after the moment of silence. Thank you. Sometimes we have really hard days at a time of year that's normally filled with a lot of excitement, and this is one of those. Desmond Webster, better known as Des, was larger than life. Desmond's entire career was in education and spanned organizations such as Ventura County Office of Education, Rio School District, and Phoenix School. He joined VUSD in 1999, first serving as a varsity football coach and girls basketball coach. He then joined the Ventura High School administration team as assistant principal in 2018 and worked with that team until September of 2022. He had a passion for our students with disabilities and was an active advocate for them and our student athletes. As the assistant principal overseeing athletics, you often saw many coaches stopping into his office to have a good laugh or a long conversation about their sport. He went to all of the sporting events, whether they were at home in Cougar Country or anywhere in the Southern California area. He always actively participated in Spirit Days on campus and would frequently be seen wearing his superhero shirts and beanies. Desmond's children were all products of the Ventura Unified School District, and Javier, his youngest, will begin his freshman year this year at Buena High School. Desmond's children were his world, and he was extraordinarily proud of them. He had a great sense of humor and a gift for bringing people together. Desmond touched many lives of staff members and students throughout his career in education and coaching. His bear hugs, superhero t-shirts, and big smile will be greatly missed at Ventura High School and throughout our district. We send our deepest condolences to his family and friends as we mourn the loss of this colleague. And I will just add that as a parent of a Ventura High School student, Desmond always went out of his way to support our family, to support my daughter, and to support all the students that he knew. He had such a big heart, and he always made himself available to all of our students, and he will be dearly missed, and our condolences are with his family, some of whom are here tonight with us, and with the Cougar family, many of whom are here to honor his memory. So thank you. Well, thank you. Ms. Dawn, would you please take roll?
Sure, I'd be happy to. President Sabrina Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice President Dr. Jerry Dannenberg.
Here.
Trustee Miss Amy Callahan. Here. Thank you. Trustee Calvin Peterson is absent this evening. Trustee James Forsythe.
Here.
And Superintendent Dr. Antonio Castro.
Here.
Thank you.
Report of action taken in closed session. There was no action taken today during closed session. Superintendent report.
I would just like to thank all of our staff and our students and our families for helping us just get an amazing start to the school year. All of us have been on our campuses. We continue to see just the warmth and excitement that we have for the school year. So I want to thank everyone for making that possible. And that's all I have to report. We have other good news that will be coming in a couple meetings. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. And we have under correspondence, We have some acknowledgement letters that were received for the board that were shared with you via email.
Thank you, President Rodriguez. It's just, we'll just note that the county office sent correspondence indicating they received the communication and letter of resignation for Amy Callahan for the board position.
Thank you very much. At this time, we'll open our public comments. This is the time for public comments that are not on an agendized item. If you are giving public comment on an agendized item, we ask that you wait and give that at the time that the item is called. And I'm going to just ask for your patience. We're navigating a new system. We had some feedback from the community that they would like us to have public comment closer to the actual items that were being discussed. And so, so we are doing that. And so I have under, well, actually, do you want to give your intro?
Thank you. Just reminders, individual speakers shall be allowed 3 minutes on any agenda item with a cumulative total of 5 minutes for all agenda items. The board may limit the total time for public input on each item to 20 minutes. Also, speakers will not be allowed to give their time to other speakers. Please note that the board is prohibited from taking action on any item not part of the printed and published agenda. I will be handling your timer for this evening, and I will give you a 30-second warning, and the timer will indicate when time is up. The governing board recognizes the impact that civility has in the effective operation of the district, including its role in creating a safe and positive school climate and enabling a focus on student well-being, learning, and achievement. The board believes that each person should be treated with dignity and respect in their interactions within the school community. The board understands that the First Amendment provides strong protection for speech. However, the board expects that all speech, expression, and action will follow the norms of civil behavior on district grounds, in facilities, during activities, meetings, and events, and in the use of digital electronic communications and platforms. Please remember that this meeting is streaming live, and we do have students that attend and watch our meetings, so please keep language as respectful as possible. President Rodriguez, if you want to call our first speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Quitos. Before I do that, I have 2 comments here that do not list an item, and I just want to see, Shafe, are you here for the public hearing, or you would like to provide a general public comment? Okay, and Mr. Long, yours has an item number, so you're going to wait and speak during that item. Okay, just want to make sure I'm getting it correct. This is new for us, so we're working out the kinks. I have up first Drew Lefebvre, followed by Alana Sheeran, followed by Marcia Thompson. Sorry, when I flip through them, sometimes I mess them around. So Marcia first. Okay, and then followed by Alana. Okay, and then followed by Drew. Okay. And then I have, just in case the order matters, I have Rebecca Fassett after that. Okay. Next time, submit them with numbers on them, please. I'm just kidding. Okay. No, it's all fine. Thank you very much, Marcia.
Thank you. Thank you all for allowing us to speak today. My name is Marcia Thompson. I have been a Ventura Unified School District parent for 17 years. I've had 3 of my 4 students did music throughout the district. 2 of them did marching band and music from middle school all through high school, and 1 is actually a USC Trojan marching band member. Fight on. I'm here today on behalf of a new parent organization called Parents Advocating for Music. We call it PAM for short. We are made up of 1 parent from each of the middle school and high school music departments, and we've been working in collaboration with the music directors at the end of last year and through the summer as well. And we have come up with a mission for our group. I'm going to read it here. To advocate as a unified group of music parents together with the music directors for a district-wide vision for music. And there's 2 points that I want to emphasize in our mission. 1, that we are coordinating with the music directors and teachers. And 2, we all come from site-specific schools, but for the purposes of PAM, we are a unified voice across the district. We really want to push for a district-wide framework. for music in general. And I'm going to close here. Oh, that was quick too. I'm going to close here with just the quote that's on the side of the Buena Music Building. Music expresses that which cannot be put into words and that which cannot remain silent. Thank you.
Ms. Fassett.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your flexibility in changing our schedule, our order. My name is Rebecca Fassett, and hello to the board and executive cabinet. Thank you for listening to us tonight. And I'm just kind of piggybacking on what Marcia said. I'm the mother of two former Anacapa Middle School students in the arts, one in visual, one in music, and I now have two freshmen, one at Ventura High School music student and a Foothill Arts visual arts student. So as Marcia mentioned, the objective of PAM, our group, is to encourage and support the school district to create and implement an equitable and robust and long-term district-wide kindergarten to 12th grade arts framework. We want to emphasize the long-term plan in times when, we're having an enrollment issue like we are now, that something that can be sustained to get us through those times. And we didn't really know that one existed until recently. We did some research, and we discovered that there is a long history of an arts framework in our district, which was very exciting to see, going way back to 1984 when I was in elementary school at Poinsettia Elementary. Little did I know that the city of Ventura had established an arts education task force comprised of a variety of stakeholders, and then they got together with the school district and created in 2009 this arts framework. I will read the vision statement from 2009 that reads, the Arts Education Master Plan will ensure the arts are an integral, interdisciplinary, sequential part of every student's education, fostering inspiration, creativity, and a lifelong appreciation of the arts. Then that kind of morphed into 2017. The plan was brought up again. There was a arts collaborative that put together a new plan with goals and challenges. At that time, they stated the Ventura Unified School District maintains a strong belief in providing all students with a comprehensive education, which includes the arts as part of that core curriculum, and this plan is district-driven. So we are parents who want the district to recognize and prioritize the importance of an arts plan for the education and benefit of our students, our current students, our future students. And so we'd like to encourage the district and the board to bring that 2017 Master Arts Plan back on the table, bring it up to evaluate it, provide an opportunity for all stakeholders once again to collaborate and create something even more exciting now that we have Prop 28 funding. So we hope this will be back on the district board agenda soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca. I have Alana before Drew. No. Okay. Okay. Okay.
This week's so flexible. We promise we know how to count. So thank you for having us again here tonight. Just to sort of tie up in a bow what my colleagues have been talking about. We recognize that not much happens in any organization, but especially in a school district, without thinking about funding and fiscal concerns. And last spring, we had an opportunity to have a lovely afternoon with Dr. Bayless here. We also talked with Mr. Mears in the same conversation. And kind of what came out of that was this idea that we understand that a lot of these funding decisions are made at the site level. Site-based decision-making is very important and is a key element of the education governance in the state of California. So having understood that, we wanted to kind of go a little bit further. And we recognized that two sort of key streams are impacting arts funding and music as well. And the first one is Proposition 28, which we know is sort of slowly making its way out. We know that we were waiting for some allocations from the state before that kind of came around. But we also know that some other districts in the neighborhood had already put a plan in place and started to work on spending some of that stuff before the official stuff came down from the state. It seems like that might be perhaps an artifact of some of our site-based decision-making in the district, possibly. I don't know. But similarly with that, thinking about Measure H, which is going to be sunsetting soon, one of our other concerns, we this has come up with many of our conversations with the directors in the district, is that the parcel tax is sunsetting, and a lot of stuff has been funded that way, and perhaps not transitioned into like the general fund from school budgets. And again, I think a lot of very well-meaning people with a lot of other things on their plate, a lot of other things to think about, a lot of other priorities maybe, might let some of those things kind of slide because they've been so well funded by the parcel tax. But again, that's a concern. And I think just sort of generally here, right, site-based decision-making is really excellent for things like social studies or like math, right? But it's really hard to build a unified like music program of vision for a subject area in the district if it's all about site-based decision-making. And, definitely not trying to advocate against that, because again, obviously, the people who are closest to our kids are the ones who should be making the decisions, but we urge the board to think about adopting a vision for arts, a framework for the arts, a framework for music, so that they can guide the site-based decision-making for stakeholders moving forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Drew. So I have now Alana. Sorry, and you'll be followed by Josh Chancer, who will be followed by Steve Schaefer.
Hi, my name's Alana Sheeran. You got the name pronunciation correct, which is impressive. So when my daughter was a few months old, I had a conversation with a friend who had a toddler and an infant at the same time. And I don't remember exactly what we were talking about, but I do remember saying, I care about the well-being of all children. And she looked at me and laughed and said, I don't. I care about my kids. And I remember being so shocked because I thought, well, our children have to live in the world with everybody else's children. If they're all taken care of, that's better for our kids too, right? So anyway, fast forward, I now have a junior at Ventura High School who is thriving, and I still care about everyone's children. Oh, sorry, didn't know saying that was going to make me teary. My experience is that VUSD does a pretty good job of taking care of its students. You know, there's always room for improvement. Nobody's perfect, but I have seen the board and the district attempt to correct and learn from mistakes when they're made. That's pretty much all we can ask for sometimes. That said, I and many of my friends are very concerned about what we're seeing with school boards around the country, and especially the way certain politicians are singling out certain groups of students in ways that are very harmful to their mental and emotional well-being, and to their physical safety. So I'm here today just to let you know that I'm working with a growing coalition of local parents and concerned citizens to put together a resolution that we would like to present to you in the next couple of months to ensure that our public schools here at Ventura Unified are and remain safe places for all students to learn, regardless of gender, race, sexual orientation, class, or disability. We care about all students. We want all students to be able to learn and achieve. We know that you want that too. In particular, we want to make sure that all students have both mirrors and windows as part of their educational experience, mirrors to reflect their own experiences back to them, and windows to let them look into the experience of someone who might be different in some way. So I just wanted to say hi and introduce myself and say I will be back with more people. And if there's anything that you would like to see in this resolution, anything that would make it easier for you to pass a resolution, please, I'll be in touch, and I would love to hear that from you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Sharon. That was beautifully said. Mr. Chancer.
Good evening. Dear Board and Superintendent, I'm here to speak about my concern and disappointment regarding the current admission for the Gifted and Talented Education Program within Ventura Unified School District. As a concerned parent of 3 Ventura Unified School District children, I believe that our district's commitment to fostering excellence in education should align with the values and guidelines set forth by the board policy. First and foremost, I want to commend the board's dedication to providing an enriched education experience for our children through the GATE program. This initiative has undoubtedly contributed to the nurturing and intellectual growth of countless students, thereby enhancing their overall academic journey. However, it has come to my attention that there appears to be a discrepancy between the current admission process and the guidelines outlined in Board Policy 6172. In other words, as of now, it seems the district is operating in violation of their own policy. The board policy, as stated in 6172, highlights that there are multiple pathways for students to gain admission to the GATE program. It is concerning to learn that the current practice seems to rely solely on a testing procedure, which contradicts the inclusive nature of the policy and the district. By adopting such a restrictive approach, the district may inadvertently limit the opportunity for deserving students to join the GATE program. This may not only deter students with unique talents and abilities, but also undermines the commitment to equal access and quality education for all. I kindly request that the board revisit and reevaluate the GATE admission process to ensure its alignment with board policy's intent. I propose that the district explores various avenues, identifying gifted and talented students beyond just a single standardized test. For example, those avenues are listed in its own current board policy. For instances, considering teacher recommendation, portfolio assessments, project submissions, and other qualitative indicators that could help create a more comprehensive and fair evaluation process. By doing so, we can embrace a diverse range of talents that may not be fully captured through standardized testing alone. I firmly believe that the Ventura Unified School District has the potential to serve as a model for equitable education that honors the principles and individuality and inclusivity. Therefore, I urge the board to take proactive steps toward reviewing and adjusting the GATE admissions process. By fostering an environment that embraces various forms of excellence, we can provide every student with a chance to excel and contribute to our community's growth. Thank you for the time and attention to this matter. I look forward to positive changes and your thoughtful consideration and action that can bring GATE program's admission process. And here's a copy of that for your viewing pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Josh. I'm actually I'll give it to Ms. Dahm to make copies for all of us. Thank you. Mr. Schaefer.
Hello, my name is Stephen Schaefer. I am the president of the San Buenaventura Conservancy for Preservation, and I just had some general comments. I love that analogy about mirrors and windows. I'm in the rear view mirror department. We're looking backwards, and the sort of looking to the past to make our town better. So I thought it would be maybe good to start with our mission statement. Our mission statement of the Conservancy is to work to increase public awareness of irreplaceable historic places and cultural sites, to disseminate information useful in the preservation of structures and neighborhoods, to prevent needless demolition, to champion adaptive reuse, and promote the preservation and enhancement of historic and cultural resources in Ventura and surrounding areas. So the basic topic is historic schools, and specifically Washington School. The San Buenaventura Conservancy has decided to support nominating the Washington School to the National Register of Historic Places. The consultant that we have hired has told us that it is eligible for the National Register of Historic Places. We were waiting for that professional opinion. And because of that, we would like to move forward with the school district support. I'm not exactly sure how to do that, but I'm hoping that we can create a partnership and figure out how to work with the school district to move that goal forward. And that goal gets us to a point where if the school district were to move into the building as administrative offices, which would be swell, you could use a special code, which is for historic buildings, to make it easier to adaptively reuse the building because it is on the National Register and it is a qualified historic building. Or if the building was sold or the project was done by the district or a developer on the site, there would be a 20% eligible historic tax credit for work done on the building. which is very valuable in the development process. So we think it is, we look at it as a benefit, and we'd like to work with the school district and hopefully have conversations with you. And the neighborhood is very, very interested in this as well. So there's some more speakers later on to speak to
30 seconds.
The interest of the neighborhood. And neighborhoods are one of the things that we're very interested in keeping a cohesive group on. So obviously there will be development there. That's not what this is about. It's not about stopping development. It's really about preserving the school, the buildings, and that history for the neighborhood and for the city. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shafe. I have no other comment cards except for Mr. Long for later during the public hearing. So with that, I'll close public comment. Our public hearing is scheduled for 7:30, so we will come back to item 14A at that time. But up next, we are going to begin a new process with our action items. So again, based on public feedback, what the board has asked staff to do is to provide their presentations for each item, allow time for board comments and questions, and then pool public comment to address those items before the board deliberates and takes action. This is a new process for us. We're all going to try it out, and hopefully it goes smoothly, but if it doesn't, we'll continue to work on it. So item 15A, presentation regarding filling of the board member vacancy. Mr. Ramos.
And as Mr. Ramos is getting settled, I would just like to remind the board and the community, at the last regularly scheduled meeting, the board reached consensus to fill a vacant seat in this process. So we've invited Mr. Ramos to come in and speak to what would that process look like. So Mr. Ramos, if you can walk the board and the community through what the filling of a vacancy for a board member looks like.
Sure, not a problem. So the presentation is pretty short. It's not a very complicated area. If you have questions as we go along, please let me know. Be more than happy to answer them as we go along. Education Code 5090 sets forth when vacancies occur. And in this circumstance, we're not dealing with a death or moving out of the jurisdiction. We're faced with a resignation. Ms. Callahan has decided to go ahead and resign from the board on September 1st. So that initiates our process. As you know, we went through this process before last year when another member of the board retired or resigned. So as a result of that, the board now must make a decision whether or not to make a provisional appointment or to hold an election. And the board has 60 days to make that decision. There are two exceptions. If the general election for Ms. Callahan's seat was this coming November, we're within the 4-month period, and this is hypothetical. Her seat isn't up until November of 2024. That's the election. We could not hold an election or an appointment. The 4 months would just run, and the election would be held in November, and the seat would be filled. The other is whether or not the vacancy occurred within 6 months of a general election, a regularly scheduled election for a board member, or 6 months, 130 days or 6 months. The regularly scheduled election for a board member is November of 2024, so we're well outside of that time limit. So an election doesn't have to be called or isn't required under the code. It's still up to the discretion of the board. Next slide. So, so after the 60 days, if the governing board does not make a decision within those 60 days, the county superintendent of schools will is required under the code to call for an election. Next. And the provisional appointment process. The only requirements for a candidate is to be 18 years of age and a citizen of the state, of the United States, a registered voter, a resident of the school district, and in this case, since we are, the district is elected by trustee areas, has to be a resident of trustee area number 3. Cannot be an employee of the school district, or if it is an employee of a school district, they must resign prior to taking the oath, and not otherwise disqualified from holding office. And we're going to get to a list of things that would make you ineligible to hold the office. Best practices are, and if the board decides to go forward in one of the resolutions, there is a requirement that, requirement that the district advertise and solicit nominations in the local media. So it'll be posted in the Ventura County Star on social media for 2 weeks. It can be placed on social media. It can be pushed out through Parent Square and any other types of social media that the district has. The interview process will take place in a public meeting, giving the opportunity for the public to provide input and see the candidates being interviewed by the board. So, the provisional appointment process. This is the board bylaw that you will be following, and it requires that the board appoint a committee of 2, less than a quorum, to review the applications to make sure that all the requirements are met. Basically, the criteria that we just read a couple slides back, plus the fact that they, to confirm where they live in the Ventura Unified School District. The appointment has to be made by a majority vote, so it's going to be 3 of you or all of you to make that decision. So after the appointment process and the decision is made, that particular person will take the oath of office at that meeting and will have all of the powers of a trustee at that point in time. And the provisional appointee will hold office until the next regularly scheduled governing board election, which is November 4th of 2024, or November 5th of 2024, and will hold office until December 13th. That will be the end of their provisional appointment, because there's a lag of time between the time they're elected and the time that the county elections office certifies the election. Next slide. So if the board goes ahead and makes the decision to do the provisional appointment, the board is required within 10 days of the appointment to post notices. Again, those notices are part of your second resolution if you decide to go that route. That particular notice will also be published in the local newspaper, online, and in 3 different places throughout the district. Okay, next. So, as a option for the community, if after the appointment the community does not agree with the board's appointment, there is a process where they can submit signatures of registered voters within trustee area number 3, and they have 30 days to do so, and provide those to the county superintendent, which will have 30 days to verify those signatures. And if there is enough signatures, the county superintendent will then call, challenging the appointment, the county superintendent will then call a special election. This special election would more than likely happen in June of 2024, which is 130 days from the, more than 130 days past the time that the special election would be called. Next.
Mr. Ramos, sorry, can I just ask you a question?
Yes.
So if that were to happen, would the appointed board member remain in office until that election, or would they?
Yes.
Okay, so we wouldn't have a vacancy during that wait.
You would not have a vacancy. They would serve until the election. Special election. We already went through that, and it's a very simple process. So, are there any other questions? You have two resolutions for your consideration tonight. One resolution is to consider or make the decision of whether or not you want to do a provisional appointment or an election. And if you decide to go ahead and do a provisional appointment, you have a second resolution that provides the process. It has the application process. It has the questions that are going to be asked of the interviewees. And also it has the notice that's going to be posted for 2 weeks in the Ventura County Star, so that we get wide distribution, not only in the paper, but in social media and Parent Square.
So another question that I hope doesn't end up being an issue, but do we have an idea of how many signatures would have to be gathered?
I don't have the number of voters in trustee area 3, but it would be 1 to 1.5% of that particular trustee area. Yeah. The trustee area is pretty much cut down. So if I can remember when we did the analysis for the different trustee areas,
Each one's about
Yeah.
25,000 total people, but not necessarily registered voters.
Yes. So, yeah, I just don't have those numbers off the top of my head.
Ms. Callahan thinks it's 15,000 registered voters.
15,000 registered voters. So there would have to be, what, 1,500 to 1,750? Yeah. Okay.
Again, I don't think it, I mean, I assume that anyone that the board would appoint would be welcomed by the community, but I just was curious. Thank you.
Yeah, no, and in the process that occurred last year, there was no challenge to the appointment process. Okay. Any other questions? If not, then, you know, the board has an opportunity to deliberate and determine which process they're going to follow.
Thank you. Comments, questions? Okay, so I will, if none, I will ask if we have any public comment on this. I don't see anyone. Just going through our new practice again. So then I will entertain a motion.
Move approval. Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you. And then consideration of Resolution 2329 regarding the timeline for filling the board vacancy. And that was the information that was already kind of shared. So do we have a motion?
And before President Rodriguez, Mr. Ramos alluded to the fact that we would have the opportunity to create an ad hoc committee. So what I would respectfully request, if there are 2 volunteers, although administratively, as it states in the resolution, I can do that administratively, I would really appreciate if anyone, we have 2 members to be able to serve with me on that ad hoc committee.
Volunteers?
Okay, great. So did you see Dr. Dannenberg and James? Okay, thank you. Oh, thank you. And Ms. Stamm reminded me there's a typographical error on Exhibit 3. So if you can just take a look at Exhibit 3. We are off by 1 date. Exhibit 3, number 3. The date on here is noted as October 25th. The correct date when this is all submitted will be October 26th. Thank you for that reminder.
Again, I see no public comment, so, and no questions from the board, so do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Great, thank you. That brings us to item 15C, consideration of Resolution 2326 regarding the Public Agency Retirement Services Supplementary Retirement Plan. Ms. Wallace.
Say that 3 times fast. Well, thank you. I'd like to invite Ms. Rachel Sanders up to the podium. And I know that we presented the formal presentation to the board at our last regularly scheduled board meeting. And so I wasn't sure how you would like to proceed, if you would like to just engage in a discussion, or if you wanted us to go through the salient points of that presentation.
I think typically, since this is a second read, if someone had a question, now would be the time to ask. I will just share that I've heard a lot of excitement about this. I'm sure you have as well. Literally, people stop me at Simone's and are like, is it true? Which is great. It's great to have that excitement in the community for our staff. So with that, I don't see any public comments. So do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Great, thank you. And then part 2 of that, consideration of the agreement for administrative services between the Public Agency Retirement Services and VUSD.
Thank you. And these are the accompanying documents that lay out the specific details of the process and the procedures and the qualifications for participation in eligibility.
And again, any questions? No, and I see.
No, I do have a question. I just want to make sure I'm correct that the cost of this is borne out by the savings that we make in the program. So it's not a cost out of the general fund.
It's yes to both. Yes, the savings covers the cost of the program, and the cost of the program is also in the general fund, as is noted here, the cost of the contract.
So again, seeing no public comment, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
And just want to reiterate for all those staff members out there who are closely watching this that information will be coming out shortly to explain the process and to explain how to apply and the parameters. So please check your email, and they can reach out to Ms. Crouch or Ms. Wolowitz if they have questions. Fair? Yeah. Okay.
Yes, and we will be having group orientation sessions. We have those pre-scheduled. We'll be sending that information out shortly, and then we will be having individual one-on-one sessions for people to get their individual information. And there will also be a mailer that's sent to their homes, to their mailing address, that has their specific, unique information about them and individuals. So many opportunities to get information and ask questions.
Okay, item 15E, consideration of resolution 2327, resolution of the Board of Education of the Ventura Unified School District authorizing the request for a waiver of surplus property competitive bidding. Oh, actually, we should hold this. Sorry. As I'm reading through, I'm like, wait, no, hold. So we're going to come back to this item after the public hearing that will be held at 7:30. So forgive me for that. Item 15F, request for approval of contracts exceeding $25,000. This is a first read.
Sorry, President Rodriguez. As the board knows, this is I think the second or third time we've brought forward contracts and expenses exceeding $25,000. There is no formal presentation, although that is our new process. The documents, the attachment notes all of those expenditures that would be in excess of $25,000 per our agreement. So we would welcome any questions about any of these potential expenditures at this time.
Questions?
Yeah. I appreciate you bring this. Looking at this document, I see a lot of special ed and staffing concerns. I guess that's just my concern is our staffing of special ed. Maybe you could kind of explain a lot of the, paraprofessional services, how we contract with VCOE, and how that, why we contract so much out. That would be helpful.
Thank you, Trustee Forsythe. I will provide just the broadest possible overview, and then I'll turn it over to Dr. Bayless for some supported detail, and I know Mr. Brani is available as well, should we need some. It happened to be that I was at a countywide superintendent's meeting this last Friday, and this is something that many of our districts are struggling with, which is hard to fill positions, in particular in the area of special education. So we're talking about parapros, but that could be speech and language pathologists, depending upon the time of year, potentially school psychologists, but let's focus on paraprofessionals for the point of this conversation. We have a lot of recruitment processes that we'll be asking our staff to speak to in a moment. But the big story is that, like other districts, but we'll speak about ours, our intention is to hire our own employees. That is always what we're striving to do. What you see here in terms of potential expenditures are really, they should be looked at as not to exceeds. So it is not our intention to hire every single contract employee to these maximums. What it allows us to do is to be able to meet our current vacancies up to that amount. But the moment that we are able to hire our own employee, then there are provisions in the contract that allow us to stop that service. So then we make way in the budget because it's already budgeted in one category or the other. But optimally, we always want to hire our own employees when possible. So that's the broad overview. Dr. Bayless and the rest of our exec cab, please weigh in.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Castro. I just want to echo that same sentiment, and I'm constantly in communication with Neil and his department, as well as HR, always moving towards bringing things in-house and being fully staffed, but when not, making sure that we're providing all the required services to our students through outside agencies when we have to. So thank you. That Neil is already anticipating these questions. Neil, can you add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, Dr. Castro gave a good summary there. A lot of times in the beginning of the year, we have a lot of these contracts out for approval because we're trying to staff for the year, and we're working through anyone who's retired or moved on from the district. We're continuing every day to do really sometimes marathons of interviews from anyone inside. We're taking them right away, like internal applicants. Anyone who's been available and qualified, we've hired them. On top of that, we're continuing to interview through agencies to temporarily fill the vacancies until we're able to hire internally. That's why you'll see a number of contracts from the same agency. Because they may have had a batch of applicants, and we interview them and pick the qualified candidates, sent the contract up, and then on maybe a couple days later or a week later, they had more applicants and we interviewed again. So that's why you'll see the repetition there. We did have a couple of promotions that created vacancies in our psychologist ranks. So we're working to fill those, and that just recently happened, so that's why you'll see those contracts there. The VCOE contract is services provided through those county programs where we contract with them to provide the support. And yeah, I mean, I think that pretty much covers it. Like Dr. Bayless said, like Dr. Castro said, we want to hire our VUSD staff, and that's our top priority in the office, and so we're reshifting anytime we have applicants to interview. We're making time to do that right away.
I'll also just add to that, thank you, Neil, that our extended learning program has edged its way into the para market as well, and so there's quite a bit more need there, and so I think that's one of the things that we're seeing. I'll also offer that we're even in the areas that we are traditionally staffed internally, we're also looking for ways to bring in staff internally that we've traditionally outsourced or contracted with in the form of counseling services for special education That's always something that we're looking at, not just our sort of traditional job categories like paras, like speech and language pathologists, et cetera. I know we have an added or recently developed and ongoing partnership with VUSD to develop more paras, growing our own. So yeah, we're looking forward to seeing some of the benefits of that, and maybe Gina can offer up some of the opportunities and challenges, and with Andrea as well.
Yeah, Ms. Crouch, if you could add, I think it's a perfect time to add in. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. So as Neil and Dr. Bayless and Dr. Castro have already mentioned, our top priority, of course, is hiring from within. We have established a partnership with VUSD where we offer a volunteer and paraprofessional course, and we've been successful in hiring students who have completed that coursework. We're also working in collaboration with VESPA and our Personnel Commission to expand our classified career ladders. And so we know that we have a hard time staffing our SLPs, which is a certificated position, but we're working hard to create paraeducator, speech and language, and also SLPA positions, where we can capture maybe somebody who's working towards that goal of becoming an SLP, but we're able to grow them ourselves.
And Ms. Crouch, can you just real quickly share what a SLPA is?
Oh, yeah. A speech and language pathology assistant. Thank you. And then during last year, during our negotiation sessions, we were able to negotiate an educational incentive for our classified employee, which the commission also adopted after it was approved. And that educational incentive has really helped us attract new hires. We're able to recognize if they have an AA, a bachelor's, a master's, or a doctorate degree, and it's also helping us retain our own employees also. So I feel like we have a lot of different avenues to really attract and keep new employees. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's wonderful. I think that career pathway is something as a para I was looking for when I worked at districts in the past on my way to becoming a teacher. It was just always this big jump, getting your degree. And so I find that, really reassuring that we're really focusing on our own employees and trying to, train them and create like lifelong VUSD employees. So I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
So I have a couple of questions, comments, I don't know, somewhere in the middle. So one of the things I struggle with, particularly with some of those contracts, is that when I look at hospitals, because that's kind of where I see breakdown financially for things, when they hire visiting nurses, they pay those nurses 2 or 3 times what their local nurses are getting, because you're paying an agency that's got a profit margin, you're transporting these people, and they don't have buy-in where they're working. So a concern I have is we're staffing positions with an agency that's much more expensive than hiring those people locally. They are not committed to staying in our district. And so what are we doing structurally? I mean, I really appreciate the outreach efforts, and I don't mean to in any way diminish that. But these paras that we're bringing in from outside agencies live in our community, and we're attracting them from an agency because that agency is doing something different than we're doing. So what is it they're doing? Are they paying them more? Are they providing them benefits? Are they providing them more hours? Because I think it would be financially probably not a huge hit to just meet what they're offering and be able to keep those people internally, right? Because if we have paras who are working for our district and we're paying an outside agency 2-3 times what we would be paying that para, it's not cost effective for us, but it's also just not building the community that we want, and it's not providing stability for our students. So I appreciate the outreach efforts, and I'm not in any way diminishing the path building, but I would like to see us really look at how do we be competitive so that we can keep those people and not have to rely on outside staffing. the para thing is a big deal because I really do think that that one-on-one relationship is really important, and not to in any way diminish SLPs or any of the other support professionals that are helping our students, but that one-on-one connection, when you can have somebody who stays with our district for many years, it makes a big difference for families and for students, and I think that's worth investing in. So I don't know, there wasn't really a question in there, but
I'll just share a little bit, because you're right, there's not a lot to respond to. I do want to go back to something that Dr. Bayless shared, which is really important. The services that are often, not always, but most of these services that we're looking at are required. They're required by law for us to provide. And so there's a balance in terms of wanting to cultivate and spend that extra time seeking and recruiting the individuals, and the real reality of needing someone now. I don't want to get too much into some of the tools and advantages that that these contractors have, but some of them are things that it would be a real challenge for us to do. For example, when they sign on to these groups, they're bound by contract to be with them under certain terms and conditions, versus when those same individuals go to work for an LEA, they can resign at any time. They're not bound by those provisions. So the way that these, not all, but some of the contracted services are able to recruit is they're able to get them within the boundaries of the contract itself that is inconsistent with our own contracts. So that's just something to think about. It certainly isn't the prevailing issue, which is why I shared that if any one district had figured out how to navigate this, which is why I kind of shared that some district would have done it. And I think the easiest way to think about it is, imagine if every district in the county had an ability to recruit just to them, and then they farmed out that talent. That's really the mechanism that we're operating within as we think about the recruitment catchment that a lot of these vendors are able to use. So it is a conundrum. It is something that we, as you can see, are working our best through, but it is a real challenge.
Kind of on a related note, are we competitive in terms of the hours that we're offering so that people qualify for benefits?
For paraeducators, with the addition of the ELOP after-school program, we've had numerous opportunities for our paraeducators to pick up additional hours after school, and we've actually had quite a few this year now qualify for full benefits, 8 hours a day. So we're grateful for the ELOP being able to extend those hours. We still have lots of vacancies and still lots of opportunities for our current paras who might be interested. So that has been something new that we've been able to offer this last couple years.
Great, thank you. And again, I do appreciate the path building. I know that these things take time, but you know, it's hard to look at this and know that there's such a big price tag on this when we could be investing that in our own employees. So.
And I'm sorry, I just have to agree with you on that. Also, you know, working at other districts, I work with a lot of agencies, you know, hires. So it's not just our issue here, it's the whole county. So I just wanted to agree with you. However, I do believe that we need to find some way of reaching parity and competing with these other districts and also agencies as well. I just hope we can do that. Thank you.
Any other questions on other contracts? Okay, do I have a motion?
I don't have a question, but I did want to just share on, and I didn't bring this up ahead of time, but just on our future contracts. First off, I really appreciate bringing forward in a very simple, clean way to read and articulate, especially not only for us, but also our public around our review of our fiscal responsibility as trustees. But one thing that I know that we have talked about in the past is looking at curriculum and ensuring that maybe we even have a report around implementation and what that can look like for impact. And I know that's something down the road that you guys are already looking at and assuring. I do also appreciate my fellow trustees asking the questions, because I did add it up. It's $2.7 million. And some are absolutely mandatory, but this is something, it seems like every year we kind of discuss, and it sounds like you guys have a great pathway in looking at how we can continue to kind of chip away at this ongoing problem. So thank you. So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Item 15G, approval of provisional intern permits, or PIPs, and waivers. Ms. Wolowitz.
Thank you. We have some routine in nature, this item. These are folks who have not yet completed every single aspect of the credentialing process. As you know, as trustees, that process for teacher credentialing is quite extensive, and some of the availability of some of the assessments and different pieces of it have been challenging over the past several years. So these folks have finished most, if not majority, of their credentialing processes, and they just have maybe 1 or 2 items left. So this allows them to continue in the classroom as they can finish those requirements.
Questions? Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Well, we might have to come back for the public hearing. Just getting right through this. Item 15H, announcement of intended appointee to the Personnel Commission and notice of public hearing. This is a first read. You'll recall that at our last regularly scheduled board meeting, the board had an opportunity to discuss the role and to hear from Ms. Campbell and Ms. Crouch. So, Ms. Crouch.
Excellent. So based on the discussion that we had at our last regular board meeting, it is recommended that the Board of Education take action and announce Ms. Ann Campbell as its intended appointee to the Personnel Commission in accordance with Ed Code Section 45246, and then set the date of the public hearing on their intended appointment of Ms. Campbell for October 10th, 2023 at 6:30 p.m.
Any questions? And I don't see any public comment. So I know you want to make the motion, but I want to make the motion.
I don't. I'm just ready to go.
I would like to make the motion that we approve the recommendation.
I'm not even.
I'll second that.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes. Thank you for your service.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Thank you, Anne. We do very much appreciate your service and really appreciate your, just keeping us in the loop. It really is. It's very valuable to all of us. Item 15J, revisions to the classified exempt salary schedule. Ms. Crouch.
This evening, it's recommended that the Board of Education adopt the attached changes to the classified exempt hourly salary schedule. And we are making recommendations for minor modifications, which include establishing 2 levels of student interns. Previous to this evening, we did have a line item for student worker / intern, and that was intended for our own students, usually high school students. But in looking at opportunities for not only within the district in some of our departments, but with possibly partnering with maybe VC and some local universities, we would like to expand to a 2nd level of student intern, which would be targeted for college level students or our adult ed students. And so therefore we are recommending this new level 2 in addition to the level 1 that we already had.
Great. Any questions?
Do you have any idea how many college interns we have right now, or college workers working on our campuses?
We don't currently have any college interns right now. I know that we do have a good handful of college students that are serving as avid tutors. And then we also have quite a few college students who are paraeducators and working other part-time jobs for us, but no official interns at this time.
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Great. That brings us to our consent calendar. Items 17 through 20 are generally considered to be routine in nature. Is there any item that anyone wishes to have pulled for a separate discussion?
Thank you. Yes, I would like to have 20B. And I will read my statement. I am recusing myself from voting on this agenda item since I have a remote financial interest in the renewal of the contract between the district and Renaissance. I'm currently employed and receive compensation as a account executive and director with Renaissance, who is a vendor of the district and provides educational software. I need to also excuse myself from the room.
So once Ms. Callahan has excused herself, then we can discuss item 20B. Okay. Does anyone have any questions or comments about 20B? Then do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries with 3 yes and 1 recusal.
Okay. And well, I'm sorry? Okay, so here comes Ms. Callahan, and so we can now discuss the balance of the consent item 17 through 20 with the exclusion of 20B.
Move approval.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
So board, we have two, well, we probably have multiple options, but two that I would recommend. We can take a brief recess before coming back for the public hearing at 7:30. Or we could do some of these closing items like board reports and stuff. I mean, it's up to you. What would you prefer to do? Moving forward it is. That brings us to board reports.
I do not have any board reports at this time, but I would like to, and we can discuss this at another time, but after September 1, I would like to be a community at large for the Parent Advisory Council and remain on that role, and maybe even for my kids' school, so we'll have to see about that. So in the future, I will have board reports, maybe from public comment.
We're still only giving you 3 minutes. Jerry?
Yeah. A couple of things. Just I'd like to thank all our staff. We're off to a good start of the school year. Being out at the schools, I see a lot of enthusiastic students, a lot of enthusiastic employees. Really appreciate what everybody's doing. And then I just think it's important to note that we have been making changes and trying to make things better, and I think we're getting there. So I think it's very important that we commend our superintendent for his leadership in helping us move forward. Thank you.
I do not have any board reports because I was unable to attend the Bond Oversight Committee meeting that was held last week. I do look forward to seeing the notes because I haven't seen them. So whoever's in charge of those.
Can I circle back? I just want to say thank you so much, but Dr. Dannenberg, Celebrate was fantastic. It was phenomenal. It was such great energy, and I will tell you the work that goes into that is absolutely commendable by each and every one of our team members here. So thank you. You sit there in the audience, and really as a trustee and also alum of Ventura Unified, I cannot tell you how proud I am of our city, of our district, and you feel the culture. It's palpable. And the message of connection and the message of presence and the message of positive intent was real, and it was appreciated. And I just want to say thank you so much for us hearing firsthand from Sadie herself, an Olympian, soon to be Olympian. I don't know if she really is, but I'll be her publicist down the road. But to hear from this young female athlete to share such an astute message, and to have that echoed by our very own esteemed superintendent, and then to continue to see that articulation aligned with our messaging throughout the year is really admirable, and I thank each and every one of you. So thank you for allowing me to be a part of that experience.
So that was board reports. Not comments, but anyway. We'll come back to that. Coming events. Ms. Q.
Okay.
You can talk about it.
All right. So this is coming events, not superintendent comments. So I have some things to add, but I'm going to hold off until superintendent comments. You'll note on your screen we have several coming events, and as earlier we had a little bit of a typo. There's another typo on here. The CDAC committee shows it is. Okay, it's been moved to the 22nd, so just note that in terms of correction. But as we are kicking off the year, we have a lot of introductory committee meetings, so please take a look. The one thing that I will take a moment to call attention to, last year as a new superintendent, I started just the year by investing in listening. So you'll note that I'm doing this again, and we'll continue to do this until people stop showing up. That's really the point, just to continue to show up. We had just amazing public comments last time, things that the district could continue to work on. So as long as there are issues that the public feels that we should work on, I'm going to continue to hold listening tours. And then when people stop showing up, then I know it's time to take a pause, and we don't need any listening tours anymore. So these were designed this year to piggyback on back to school nights regionally across the city. So you'll notice that you have Data, Lemon Grove, and Citrus Glen. We know that only certain people can make it to certain schools, trying to make it as easy as possible. So that's the intent, and look forward to seeing so many of you out there at any of these events. And that is coming events. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Future board items. We have 2 items listed. Still planning for our future conversation about a PLA or community work agreement and the surplus properties conversation. Are there any other items that the board wishes to discuss?
I don't know if it's a future board item, but the framework for the music and arts component, I thought that was interesting to have so many of our community members share and what they were articulating. So again, I don't know if that's a future board meeting or if that's something that we can ad hoc and kind of conference around as far as a meeting, but specifically to the funding support that we have now with Measure H. I actually didn't know it was sunsetting, but also looking at Proposition 98, what that looks like.
So I see one head nodding, another head nodding. Okay, great. So we have consensus on that. While you're thinking about other items, based on a previous conversation at the board meeting, we had talked about the importance of student data. So at intervals, we would like our first shot at this to be around October 10th. So we would like that to be focused on student performance. Also looping back to previous board topics, we would like to bring solar energy back on hopefully September 26th.
Great. I was going to ask about thank you for the update about solar. That was something I was going to ask about. Great, thank you. Any other items? Okay. So now, board and superintendent comments.
I actually have a couple comments before we get to the person of honor here, but I just want to, thank all the teachers and ESPs out there that are working really hard right now. As a fellow teacher, I'm exhausted just like you are. I mean, the first 2 weeks are always rough. So just stick with it. Be there, be present for your students, and it'll all work out. Second thing is I want to thank the Loma Vista staff. They welcomed my daughter Claire into the kindergarten, which I was far more stressed out than my daughter was. And so was my wife. She was really stressed out too. But it is something else to see, your daughter growing and going into a really great school district, a really great school with wonderful teachers. And having that security and knowing that she is safe at one of our sites, it brings a lot of security to me because I'm down in Oxnard most of the time, so I feel very secure with my daughter at Loma Vista, and I just want to thank the staff for making welcoming our family, making our family feel secure, and giving my daughter the best education possible. And then finally, I want to thank, and I'm going to miss Amy. Really, she's very welcoming coming into the board. She's always asked the pertinent questions. She's always stood up for students, for low-income students, for students of color, for students who just need the extra bit of love. And she's always asking questions for those students. So I admire you. I want to copy you. I write notes. When you say the question, I'm like, I should ask that. But I think you're wonderful. I'm sad to lose you, but I'm really happy that you're going this direction. You're going with your family, and family's the most important thing. So it's wonderful being with you.
You used your 3 minutes already, but if it's your last meeting, so.
I would just like to echo Mr. Forsythe and that I will miss you, Amy. It's been a pleasure serving with you, and I've learned a lot from you, and I too appreciate your stance for students and always wanting to do the best we can for our students. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Short and sweet.
So a couple of things. I wanted to thank all those staff members who worked all summer and still showed up for the first week of school, because it is incredible to watch people work all year, work during the summer, and then show up at that first day and be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to meet their students, to support their colleagues. It really just goes to show the level of professionalism and dedication we have in this district, and does not go unnoticed, and I really appreciate it. I was very sad to miss Celebrate this year for the first time, I think, I don't know, in a very long time, even as a parent and volunteer. But I've heard such great things from people about the energy at the school sites and the good work that's being done and that's being noticed. So kudos to the executive team and to all of our leadership out there who are listening and being accessible and open. Really appreciate it, and I really do think it makes a difference. And I hope our staff sees that we're doing everything we can to support them and to see them and to hear them. And then to my colleague down the row over here, she knows one of my favorite sayings is, a strong woman stands up for herself, but a stronger woman stands up for others. And it's one of the things I've always admired about Amy, is that she stands up for others, and she does that tirelessly and really from a very true place. And she does the work, which this job can be at times very difficult, emotionally difficult, time management difficult, but you've always shown up and done the work. And I would always look over and see 100 sticky tabs on her packets and go, wow, she really read all that stuff and wrote all those notes. And it would make me feel like I needed to be more. So thank you for pushing and really for always caring. And you know, what I think it was during last year at the beginning of school, which was a very stressful time for all of us, but watching you navigate that complex situation with so much love for our staff and for our students was really impressive to see, and it's something that I admire about you, and that I will continue to try to emulate as you move on. And I'm glad you'll have more time with your family. It's been interesting to hear all the things that people say, like, oh, well, is it because of? And it's like, no, she just wants to be able to be with her family, and I really respect that. So, so thank you. And then lastly,
Are you done?
almost.
No, more?
I'm done about you. But lastly, to Dr. Castro, that's a hard seat to sit in, a really, really hard seat to sit in. And the last few years, as a district, we've been through so much. And when you stepped in to such a hard time, we all were kind of worried about how you would navigate that. And to see you here, starting at a year with so much positivity, so much support, so much respect from the community and from your colleagues and from our staff, really just makes me happy and helps me know that we made the right choice, and just really grateful for you. So. I know, and we still have 7 more minutes.
Well, I get to make some comments here.
Oh,
yes,
true,
board
yes.
and superintendent comment. Yeah,
Yes.
There's a lot to say. I have to think about it. But I do want to go back to the beginning of the year. We've talked a lot about how much is going right in the classroom. There's so much that takes place to make our community, our schools safe outside of the classroom. We have people working in really hot conditions. We have people working without enough people. Like we looked at the contracts earlier. We have a lot more. We have ELOP programs that ask for more. We have more bus routes. There's so much need out there. So what I want to do is just thank all of the people that you haven't heard yourself being thanked yet, to thank you for being the individuals that make the whole system work, even though and especially when we don't have enough, because we're in an environment where we don't have enough. And I'll extend my appreciation to the staffs working with our administrators at the site, because we're in an environment in some cases where there's more constraints on the master schedule, which means that there's more flexibility that's required. So I want to thank all of our staffs for working together to address our new unfolding reality. To Trustee Callahan, I shared before my more kind of technical appreciation for what you do. Sabrina, is what you said. There's the public side of what you see, but there's a lot of personal interaction, and I can attest to Trustee Callahan that things that we see publicly are happening in our individual conversations, pushing for more and for better and for equity. That's who you are, and I want to thank you, because that makes me and all of us better. And then finally, thank you for the appreciation for me. I'm going to just include our staff, our team. What we're doing is because everyone is working so hard, and it's just a big source of pride to be a part of it. So thank you.
Great, thank you. I don't know if any of you would like to say anything for Ms. Callahan, or, I mean, you don't have to. She's leaving anyway, so. But if you would like to now, we will allow.
September 1st.
5 more minutes to our public hearing. Do we want to take a brief recess? Okay, thank you. So we will take a very brief recess and return at 7:30 for the public hearing. Great. Thank you very much for your patience. The board took a brief recess since we had a public hearing that was scheduled for 7:30. And since it is now 7:30, we will go ahead and begin with item 14A. Yes, 14A, a public hearing regarding the intent to request a waiver. At this time, as part of the public hearing, I will invite members of the public who have submitted their public comment cards to speak. Because our new policy, well, it's not really new, but like kind of new-ish, we are closing the acceptance of public comments. And so here's what I have. Mr. Long, followed by Mr. Hansen, followed by Tricia Fortina, is that correct? Followed by Doug Kidwell. Sorry, I just want to make sure I get people's names right. Followed by Kathy Peterson, followed by Helen Aloyan, and then finally Mr. Bert Handy. So you will have 3 minutes to make a public comment. And for those of you who don't normally attend our meetings, the board is not able to respond, but we do take notes and pay attention. So please know that we value your opinion and your comments.
Was there a staff presentation first?
There is no staff presentation.
So, Mr. Long.
Thank you. Good evening. Dan Long, Midtown resident. I just wanted to thank the Ventura Unified School District for moving forward with the next step with all these surplus properties. This is an issue that has been discussed for a number of years, and I'm glad to see the possibility of better uses or adaptive reuses of some of these iconic buildings and properties. The district certainly could benefit from consideration in the future with a number of different uses that would benefit both the district coffers and the neighborhoods where these properties are located. I also wanted to publicly thank the district for sending out the postcards in the neighborhood of Washington School to let us know that you are taking steps to secure the building, keeping up the landscaping, and asking the community to keep an eye on the school and to contact you with any problems. Community members appreciated both Trustee President Sabrina Rodriguez and Trustee Calvin Peterson attending the San Buenaventura Conservancy for Preservation Washington School meeting in Cooper Hall on July 26 by just listening to the neighborhood concerns. I'm also here to support SBC taking the lead to finish the application to place Washington School on the National Registry of Historic Places to help ensure an appropriate use of this Midtown icon once the eastern edge of Ventura. I was also very happy to see you adjusting the public comment protocols, with the public being able to hear the staff reports, then board comments and questions ahead of the public being able to speak before further discussion by the possible board voting. And that kind of aligns with City Council, Planning Commission, Fair Board, and I think it's what I was always used to. And so it's nice to see that's more aligned, or you've specified a little bit better. And I also wanted to thank A.B. Callahan for all her service, and thank you very much, Amy. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. And, you know, those postcards were a direct result of the feedback that we got from the community at that historical preservation meeting. So thank you for that idea. Appreciate it. Mr. Hansen.
My name is Michael Hansen, and I've lived on Macmillan Street for 32 years. I bought the house that's right adjacent to the parking lot, and I've raised 4 children there. Before it became a school, it was a place where we played with our dogs, just really enjoyed it. We loved that school. There was a gentleman that lives on that street that graduated from that school. His name is Mike Kelly, and I work down at Ventura Harbor, and I've met many of my customers that went to that school and loved that school. I personally love that school. My neighbors would hate to see it torn down, and we would all love to see you try to partner in some fashion to keep that building and reuse it if possible. Of course, everybody's afraid with what's going on, with all the buildings they're doing here in Ventura, that somebody's going to build a 3-story house that's going to look right down on top of me, and I will not like that. I really will not like that. So that's some of the biggest concerns about all the neighbors around that school, that, hey, there's going to be 3-story houses there. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I'm going to try to participate now. And thank you for your time.
Sorry. Ms. Fortina, followed by Mr. Kidwell.
Hello. I told myself I wasn't coming up here, so I don't know how I got up here. But I always find all my shyness right about now. I'm over on Hearst Avenue. I'm very new at something like organizing, but I'm very willing to organize the neighborhood, to keep people posted so that we are a voice together. I don't know the VUSD, any of you. I don't know any of you, and I don't want to feel suspicious about you, but I do. Not you individually, but what is VUSD about? And I say that because of all the building that's going on, the 5-story, 500-unit apartments that we don't have any water for instance. So I feel suspicious. I'm on Hearst over there. I enjoyed the sound of the children laughing and the coaches correcting and the whistles getting blown, and I did that for 7 years. I enjoyed the daylights out of it, and now we've got crickets at night. You know what crickets means? It's like the lot's super empty, and I hope that either it's a park for the neighborhood or that they do something really good with this building, conscious, and give a shit what the neighborhood is saying. I hope that you're listening, because however many showed up now, we'll just get a large number going to be heard if we need to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kidwell, followed by Ms. Peterson.
Hello, you guys. Of course, I work for Ventura Unified at Pacific, so nice to see you all. And but of course, tonight I live right across from Washington School, so that is a really big topic for myself and everybody who came to talk tonight. Sabrina, I know that you came to the when we had the meeting in July, that you were able to make that, and that was much appreciated, just so you could hear the concerns from everybody. I've lived there since 95, so you know, sneaking up on 30 years, and I've seen that building be used for so many wonderful things. The auditorium has housed churches. During the pandemic, there was churches outside. Of course, there's been tons of fairs and ball games, and so many wonderful events have taken place right there. And I agree with Tricia that we would love to see the building preserved and used in another fashion. If it's to be a school, fantastic. If it's possibly district offices, fantastic. But that building is beautiful, and like she said, and I would just echo that we would love to see it be preserved and either used for something else, for another good use, or just put to good use in another fashion, whatever that may be. So thank you for listening to us, and we hope to be working with you. Because I'm with Tricia. Everybody that I've spoken to in the neighborhood loves the idea of keeping the building, whether it's a school or a different purpose. Thank you.
Ms. Peterson, you'll be followed by Helena Loyan.
And I know Marianne. So I've lived there
34 years, and if you look back in the records, when the school district first offers this property up, I put my name at the top of the list. They did call me. I wanted to start a film school. Was not, you know, when the building came available, I wasn't available, and so I was grateful that it went to the Christian school, because 2 of my nephews went there and loved it. So it's sad to see that it's not a school, but it is a beautiful building. And my house was built in 1904, so it's pretty much a really historical neighborhood. I live right on Thompson. There's a barber shop in my front part of my property at Thompson and McMillan. Every day when the school was there at 3 o'clock and at 9 o'clock, there was an SUV parade down McMillan. And in fact, they were mostly silver, surprisingly enough. And it was like clockwork, and happy kids. When my nephews went there, they would come to my house after school to avoid their parents, you know, and go bowling down at what used to be Poinsettia Bowl. So for me, it's a really historic place. I've lived in a 10-block radius of West Ventura most of my life, and I really feel sad if they're going to tear it down, because if you look at any of the Ventura books, so many great buildings here in town have been demolished for something else. And my sister lives in landmark number 50 up on Poli, and so it would be really tragic to take this beautiful, gorgeous piece of architecture that we have left here and put housing. Now, I live right across the street where one of the nicest developments is. It's the I can't think of the name of it, but it's right across from McMillan on Thompson, and there are 29 units there, and they're set back, and they're beautiful, and they're not, you know, like the ones down the street that look like Santa Monica boxes, just straight up. And I'd hate to see something like that. I know for me, my area is zoned 6 stories. My property is not big enough for 6 stories, obviously, but I know that that's zone, and to me, to put a 6-story building in the middle of a beautiful vintage Aladdin home
30 seconds
section would be, to me, it'd be criminal, because it's just, you know, there's just a heritage here. So, and then the other thing is we just had 1,705 units built in the last 5 years, and those people are going to have kids that need to go to school. So hopefully they'll be coming to you with looking for a place to go to school. So that's it. Thanks.
Helen, you'll be followed by our final speaker, Bert Handy.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. First, want to say I think we're all kind of in agreement regarding this waiver. It sounds like the community members who have spoken have kind of indirectly shown support for the waiver, which I do as well. I do think this is our best chance as community members to work directly with the school district on the appropriate uses of these surplus properties. I've been haunting the meetings that have to do with the surplus properties. It's no, you know, I'm not trying to hide it. I know at one point it was said if we don't go through this waiver process, it's kind of like the highest bidder wins scenario. And as a community, I know we definitely don't want that. The one thing I would urge is that when we are preparing the RFP kind of parameters for the projects that we do want to see, I would, you know, urge that staff and the board look at each property and craft maybe RFPs for each property as feasibly as we can do, but also make room for grassroots efforts. I know there's a village out there. I know a lot of people couldn't attend tonight's meeting, but there is a village ready to kind of adaptively reuse at least in one structure I'm well aware of. You guys are to the Avenue School. So if we can form the RFP so we're not precluding these kind of grassroots community actions and requests, you know, that would be my only ask tonight. But I really appreciate all the work that staff has done, all the work that you guys are doing, and I appreciate you keeping community concerns at the top of mind. Thank you.
Thank you, and Mr. Handy.
Good evening, board members. The Washington School is an iconic school, and I've lived in the area for over 35 years. And it's one of those areas where I go by And that school just reminds me of the historic areas that we live in Ventura. Being on the east end of the old Ventura, you've got a neighborhood there which has very few parks. Back when this area was built, the schools were actually used as recreational zones for all the residents who lived in the areas. And that's what that school represents to me, along with the iconic structure that's there. That school has a history in it, and the buildings are very, very traditional and the time zone. If you would take that and sell it, you're opening it up to an area which probably could house up to, I don't know, 500 people. We don't have the infrastructure nor the streets to handle that kind of a traffic flow there. Look at the narrowness of the streets. When you drive down that area, you have cars parked on two sides. You have to wait for cars to go through. So that's another issue you have there with the traffic issue. It's not an area that's conducive to what could happen if that is sold to the highest bidder. Also, being right on a transportation zone right there, that means you've got a 6-story level there, which is something that would not fit into the area right there. How many parks are close to Washington School currently? The only one that's actually in that zone is down there by Ocean Park. So yes, you've got Cemetery Park, which used to be a cemetery, but in the same token, you don't have any schools there. The 2 schools or the 3 schools you have there are Washington School, then you've got the other ones over there, Lincoln School, and you've got Cabrillo. So all these schools are areas that are used all the time for recreation. And to take that area away, I don't think is appropriate. And I believe that it should be handled as a nationally certified historic building. And that's where I would like to see it go, and keep the area within its condition of using it as a park. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate you coming here and providing your public comment. With our new structure, following public comment, this is an opportunity for the board to provide comments or discussion prior to our vote.
And just a reminder, 14A is a public hearing. We don't have any action needed on this, just to open and close the public hearing. But the board, of course, is welcome to make comments, but we're not requesting any action.
This is that rare occasion where you can comment on public comment.
I just want to say thank you for the community for coming and sharing your really well thought out options and proposals. I took note of a couple, the RFP for each property, looking at the historic preservation, repurposing for different uses, specifically whether it's office buildings or for schools, and then also recognizing, and I do want to share that my fellow trustee, Sabrina Rodriguez, really does take to heart community input. And so I appreciate you appreciating her for, and the rest of on behalf of our board for attending that listening meeting, and also continuing to have a two-way dialogue in partnership and in collaboration as we work through the best options in unity for our community. So thank you for being here.
So I wanted to share a couple of things. I think one of the things that's been really difficult over the last year was our inability to address the community during all that's gone on, and I want to own that has created a sense of distrust. And I hope that moving forward, what you'll learn as you get to know us and watch us navigate this process is that this is a board of people who really do care about the community. We do try very hard to engage and listen. Your feedback is valued, and we try to operate in a very transparent fashion. I know that's probably not the impression that some folks have, because last year while we were in litigation, that wasn't always possible. But now, as we move forward in this process, it is a very public process. It's designed to be public, and we want you to know know that we do only take our action in these settings. I don't talk to my colleagues about these things, and they don't talk to me. This is where we have those conversations, and so we want you to know that as your elected representatives, that's what we do. We're here to listen to you and to have our conversations out here in the open. And to take your feedback into consideration as we move forward. That's part of the reason for choosing to have this public process for the waiver. And, you know, I think another part that has kind of led to some distrust is people feeling like there was movement in a particular direction. I think for us as a district, this is the very first step. This isn't a process that has already been gone through with a foregone conclusion. You know, this is the very beginning of our public conversation around Washington School, what we as its stewards do moving forward, and what the community wants to see, and how we all participate together in that process. So I know that it's easy for people to say those things, and it doesn't always get believed, but I hope that as we move through this process, you will learn that we do really mean it, and we do view you as partners and want to engage with you in a productive way on this process. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, just that recommend closing the public hearing, and then we can proceed to item 15E.
Great. So with that, the public hearing is closed, and now we will move to item 15A, where the board will consider a resolution. Oh, no, not that one. Sorry.
15E. Yeah,
Thank
sorry.
you.
E is an echo.
Skipped it. 15E, regarding a consideration of Resolution 2327, the Board of Education of the Ventura Unified School District authorizing the request for a waiver of the surplus property competitive bidding procedure under Ed Code 17466.
Thank you, President Rodriguez. Just as a reminder for the board and the community, the board received a comprehensive overview of what the property disposition process looked like on July 11th. So if the community would like to look at that PowerPoint, that's available publicly. We are not going to rehash everything that was shared with the board at that time, but we may reference a slide or two if you would like to do that. But what I'm going to do is ask Stephen McLaughlin, who is representing us on our property issues, to just walk us through the resolution. And then wanted to echo a comment that was made earlier for anyone who's interested in this process. No decisions have been made about these properties. We are in a particular step within this process, so I hope that you all hear that we are moving through this process with deliberation, with purpose. So, Stephen, if you would.
Thank you. Yeah, and I'm going to repeat that again just to make it clear to everybody. This is the first step in the process. There's no decision being made by the board. Just to give you a brief summary, because I did talk about this in detail last month. So in general, what the education code requires school districts, anytime you have property that you want to sell or lease, you have to go through what we call the surplus property procedure. The end of that procedure requires us to award to the highest bidder. So if we sell or we lease, we have to award to whoever's offering us the most money. That's what the law requires. This waiver will allow us to waive that process and use what we call the RFP, the request for proposal process. So that means if we decide after we get the waiver to proceed, we can ask for proposals from the community. They send them in. They can tell us what they want to do with the property, how much they want to pay us, and then we can consider those proposals in totality. So we can consider the price, we can consider the use, and then also we can negotiate with them. So we can go back to them and say, hey, we like your price, but we don't like your use. We are hearing concerns from the community about a certain use, and so we want to see if we can change your use or adjust it. If we like a use, we can go back to somebody and say, hey, we really like your use, but you need to give us some more money, frankly. We can do that in negotiations. We can talk about the the structure, if we want to maintain it, if we want to use part of it as a district. It just basically opens up the process. But as everyone has mentioned, and I want to continue to repeat, this does not obligate us to do anything. We're just asking for a waiver from the state. The state processes it. Once we get the waiver, then that gives us the option to use that RFP process. The RFP process is specific to the sites, so I think there was discussion about doing all RFP for all the sites. We don't do that. We do it for each site individually, if you decide to do that. Again, if we go through, if this resolution is adopted and we get the waiver, we'll come back to you and say, hey, we got the waiver. What do you want to do now? And we'll walk through that process. So I just want to make it vitally clear. I think everyone understands that, but that's the misunderstanding that happens a lot. This is not binding us to anything. We're not declaring anything surplus. We're not offering to sell or lease anything. We're just asking if you want us to go to the state and ask for the permission to use that RFP process. So that's all I got. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer those.
Thank you very much, Stephen. I'll just draw the public's attention to the last whereas in the resolution to support that. The waiver process, if agreed upon by the board, it does not require the district to sell or lease the properties, but instead gives the district the option to use processes like the RFP process. So I just wanted to reiterate that. And because we haven't been explicit about it, I just want to again draw attention to the 4 properties that are noted in the resolution are, I'm just going to use the shorthand for them. We have the property that we're in currently, which is the Educational Services Center, otherwise known as the ESC, the Avenue School or Avenue Elementary, Washington School, Jewett Estates, and the Sutton Estate.
And one more thing that I want to mention too. So throughout this process, the law does still require us to do things. A lot of that involves public comment and public input. So this is not the first time that we will hear from the public. They are required to accept those comments regarding uses. So the concerns you've received here will be expressed again, and we will actively seek those throughout the process. So, and with that, any other questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions?
Yeah, I just for the public's information, what is the timeline for the waiver, and when should they kind of check the agenda for Ventura Unified?
Yes, so this is the rub. So what we do is we submit a waiver application to the state, and then it's got to go through a lot of hoops with the state. And they have to hold a public hearing themselves, their board, to decide whether or not they're going to grant the waiver. Now, waivers they're required essentially to grant those waivers, but the timeline, there's no limit. So the meetings are held bi-monthly. The next one is in September, so I'll just be honest with you, we're not going to make that. We might be able to make the November meeting. We might. I don't want to make any promises because their process is very slow. The next one after that is January, which I'm not going to promise that either, but I feel very confident that we'll make January. But I will work, if the board decides to seek this waiver, I will work tirelessly to try to get it to November, but a lot of that is out of our control. It's just a process. So if I had to guess, I'd say January is when we get the waiver, and then we come back to you and say, we have the waiver and these are the requirements. So the state will tell us. We ask them for permission to use the RFP process. The state will come back and usually they say, yes, you can use the RFP process. They might give us other parameters about what that looks like. So we'll discuss that with you if it happens. But I would say January would be my best guess.
If granted the waiver, do we have to use it, or can we use the traditional process if we decide that's in our best interest?
That is a great question because, yeah, we are not required to use the waiver, so we can go back to the traditional process. And also, some districts have used both. So they've gone and they've said, we're going to go out to bid. If we don't like the prices we get, we will reject all bids, and then we'll use the RFP process or vice versa. So you can do one or the other. You're not bound to anything. This is just full-on permission at this point.
So, if there are no further questions, do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
Great, thank you, and thank you to the members of the public who stayed to provide their comments. We have made it to the end of our agenda. There is no need to return to closed session. But before we adjourn, are we going to do that? We just have a little gift for Ms. Callahan.
Oh, thank you. What time is it?
It's so early.
This is amazing.
I know, it's 8 o'clock. Woohoo.
Consider it a parting gift.
For those of you who don't normally come, this is really, really not normal. And with that, do you want to make the motion to adjourn?
I make the motion to adjourn at what time?
8:02.
8:02. Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 4-0.
I want to thank VASE and TD Studios, as always, for being here and for keeping our meetings moving right along. And we hope you all have a wonderful start to the school year.